Tourism means fun and relaxation to most of us, but for huge parts of this province, it's big business. And while you may have blocked it out of your mind, at this time last year, we were barely coming out of another wave of COVID-19, locked in the mad dash to get vaccinated. Summer didn't look as rosy as it does now, not by a long shot. Will this year be enough to make up for the pandemic-induced economic disruption? Let's find out. Joining us now in Nodonasing on Manitoulin Island, Kevin Eshkokogan, President and CEO of Indigenous Tourism Ontario. In Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, Lord Mayor Betty Desiro. In Ontario's capital city, Chris Bloor, President and CEO of the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, and Rachel Dodds, Professor at the Ted Rogers School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at the now renamed Toronto Metropolitan University. And we're glad to have you four with us tonight here on TVO. I need to spare a quick word for Betty Desiro here, because once upon a time, 37 years ago, I was a Toronto City Council reporter, and you were on Toronto City Council, Betty Desiro, and I know we've seen each other a few times since then, but not much. So welcome, Lord Mayor. Lovely to have you on our program again. Let's do just a bit of a fact file off the top here and see what tourism looks like in the province of Ontario. It matters a lot. The GDP for tourism in Ontario is $36.8 billion a year, making it more than 4% of the provincial GDP. Tourism employment, 396,000 people make their living at this. That's more than 5% of provincial employment. Total inbound travel from January 21 to December 2021, a 14.6% drop from the year before, thank you, COVID. And total outbound travel in 2021 was off almost 40% from the previous year. Kevin, I wonder if you could get us started here and describe what the tourism industry has been like for you over the past 2 years.
Thanks, Steve. Miigwech and Gigadon and Adish Nakaz and Nodonasing Donjaba. And I'm really glad to be here today and share this, because the travel industry is an important one to the Indigenous community. And we've really struggled prior to the global pandemic. We had unprecedented times, unprecedented demand, and there was so much interest in Indigenous experiences with international travelers, domestic travelers. And now with the pandemic, we've had a little break from that. But that's a positive thing in our mind. We always try to find the positive in what's going on. But this is a time where we're seeing a lot of growth, and there's still a lot of demand. There's unprecedented demand, even more so than ever before, for Indigenous experiences in this country.
Kevin, let's learn a little something here. What language did you just speak, and what did you say?
So I was speaking Anishinaabe, and I gave you my traditional name, which loosely translates to the man who speaks for the people. Is my name, and Nodonasing is where my spirit is. That's loosely translated to Manitoulin Island is where my spirit is and where my heart is, and that's where I make my home today.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Chris, give us the story from across the province of Ontario. What are you seeing?
Well, the last 2 years have been almost anything but catastrophic, to be brutal, Steve. It's been a very tough time for the industry. We've seen revenue declines of up to 93%. We've seen many of our businesses take on six-figure debts. We lost over 100,000 jobs at the very peak and the worst of the lockdowns that were happening in Ontario. So it's been a very, very difficult time, and it's only really thanks to the innovation and the collaboration with government that we've been able to keep the majority of our industry afloat during the last 2 years. And that's why we're so excited about the next summer and the next year or two, because we really need to try and make up for lost time that we've suffered over this pandemic period.
Let me go to the Lord Mayor of Niagara-on-the-Lake next. And I guess for those who don't know, we should say that, yes, Lord Mayor is the title in Niagara-on-the-Lake when you are the mayor there. And, you know, when you think tourism in this province, Niagara-on-the-Lake is one of the places we all think of. What's it been like there during the pandemic?
Well, during the pandemic, it was our tourism industry is the largest economic driver we have for Niagara-on-the-Lake. So, 80–90% of our employees are in the tourism sector, either in wineries, the Shaw, shops, tours, accommodation, and they suffered tremendously during the 2 years of COVID. Some things we were trying to assist in terms of, waiving fees that they have to pay. The patios were a great help to some of the restaurants. The hotels were allowed to stay open, but getting staff was very difficult, and some chose just to close because of the precautions with the pandemic. So a lot of people in our economy suffered, and this summer will be the telltale in terms of them trying to recover from the last 2 years. I also just wanted to say that the government subsidies were also a great help as well, but nothing, helps more than having people come into shops and come to visit.
And let me do a quick follow-up with you. Can you tell, now that COVID thankfully is not as fatal today as it was over the past 2 years, have things started to come back?
In Niagara-on-the-Lake, yes. They have. We're getting more and more tourists coming into Niagara-on-the-Lake, and we haven't reached the capacities we've had pre-pandemic, but there are more people coming. And what I'm hearing anecdotally is that people are spending more money, staying longer, and so that's good. What's sort of hurting our economy at the moment is the labor market and the lack of the ability to get employees.
All right, Rachel Dodds, you obviously study this for a living. Tell us what you've noticed over the past couple of years in terms of tourism province-wide.
Well, one of our things is that our students, especially at our university, have had to go find other jobs because the jobs, although there's a huge labor shortage, many people didn't necessarily want to be frontline workers. And that's something that's really come to light, is how we treat our staff, that we have had a labor shortage long before COVID, and now we have a labor shortage, but that we need to make sure that we treat our staff better, because most of the labor in our industry has been long hours, lower pay, and shift work. And the COVID pandemic really highlighted the fact that we might not always want to do that kind of a job. So we need to. That's been a positive, I think, and a negative.
Chris, can you follow up on that? Is it simply the case that more and more people are simply not going to put up with the kind of miserable hours or perhaps even abuse from management that they did in the past?
Steve, there's obviously good employers and there's bad employers in all industries, but Rachel's absolutely right. This was a problem that existed well before any of us knew about where Wuhan in China was. But one of the things that we've definitely seen during the pandemic at its worst is that people need to pay their mortgages. They need to pay their rent. They need to put food on the table. And when sometimes the province was closing businesses, or opening businesses, should I say, on a Friday, and then closing them again on Monday, there was no consistency for people. And so obviously people went to find work that meant that they could put food on the table. And so that, unfortunately, is a problem you're going to have in an industry which is so reliant on people being close to each other, experiencing new experiences, getting out and travel. And those challenges that those frontline staff that Rachel mentioned faced during this pandemic were extreme. We were asking people for vaccine certificates. We were asking people to go 6 feet apart. We were asking people if everyone in their party had had a vaccination. So there were huge challenges put on staff. And I'm not surprised to see that not all of them have returned back to our industry.
Kevin, what's it been like for you on Manitoulin Island to both hire and maintain staff?
Steve, with the work that we do, we help service and support Indigenous tourism operators across Ontario, but not just here on Manitoulin, but right across the province. We're seeing labor shortages, without a doubt. And I'm often quoted as saying we're the original tour guides to these lands, the original hosts to these lands, and there's no one better to be in tourism than Indigenous people. But at the same time, we're not the solution for labor shortages and the challenges that we face collectively, but we are a part of the solution. And we've done some great things here to partner and collaborate with others, very specifically the Three Fires Collaborative Quest to get more Indigenous people in the workforce. But we're seeing the same thing the rest of the industry is seeing. Very challenging times to get people involved, and there's just simply not enough people to fill all the roles.
Well, Rachel, let's see what we might be able to do about fixing that. What recommendations might you have for the tourism industry in order to ameliorate this situation?
Well, one thing, I think we could do a number of things, but one thing I think we really need to focus on value rather than cost. Canada is expensive. Ontario is expensive. It's one of the reasons why so many of our residents, why we all go down south to escape the weather. So we need to really focus on what's different about Ontario, why we should stay, why we should travel. We also need to be really cognizant of over-tourism. During the pandemic, most people stayed at home, but that didn't stop the shortage of people parking on other people's lawns, crowding conservation areas, crowding local places. And those kinds of things were happening all over the world, but they weren't happening in our backyard. And all of a sudden, COVID highlighted that it's happening everywhere, and travel needs to be better. all these words, academics, I know I'm one of them, love to come up with words like, ecotourism and sustainable tourism and responsible tourism, and now it's rejuvenative tourism. But at the end of the day, they all mean the same thing. We need to leave places better than we found them if we want to keep this industry for the long term.
Well, Lord Mayor, you know the businesses in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Are they offering particularly new or different incentives in order to try to attract workers and keep them?
Yes, they are. I won't go into the details of what they're doing, but in terms of salaries increasing, yes, they have been talking about increasing salaries and trying to figure out how transportation can work better. In Niagara-on-the-Lake, we have two issues here that council is also trying to work on. One of them is housing is really expensive in Niagara-on-the-Lake, probably higher than a lot of other municipalities in Niagara region. And the other is transportation. And because we're sort of an island at the end of the line in terms of the Niagara region transportation, a lot of people, one, can't afford to live in Niagara-on-the-Lake and can't get adequate transit to get to jobs in Niagara-on-the-Lake. So the town is looking at two things. Number one, we've increased the service for Niagara on-demand transit in Niagara-on-the-Lake, so people can use it at later hours rather than having to stop everything at 6 o'clock. And the second thing and that will start immediately. And the second thing that we're doing is looking at the provincially mandated secondary suites and trying to figure out a way within our zoning bylaws to allow people to offer long-term rentals in secondary suites easier than having to go through a lot of red tape and rezoning and everything else. So those two issues town is trying to address. The businesses are trying to address the issue of salaries and also transportation. So we're working towards a solution, and I'm hopeful that everything we do will help.
Let me follow up with Chris on that, because we have heard, particularly during the election campaign, housing, housing, housing. It's just a crisis, and the people that we want to fill our businesses and to serve us in tourism can't afford to live in the places where they work. That's not a problem that's going to be solved tomorrow. Chris, what do we do about that?
Well, it's a huge problem, Steve, and it's a problem, Steve, that is affecting the tourism industry across the globe, in Western Europe, Australia, everywhere. And there are some governments taking some decisive action, very high quotas of affordable housing in its housing planning, but also relocation costs, paying for people who they want to work in employment. In Australia, they're paying people to relocate into different provinces to work within the tourism industry. Italy has just passed a new piece of legislation that is giving people earning less than 35,000 euros, free transportation. In Germany, they're setting aside rented accommodation for people who work in front of house jobs. There are active things that the government can do. But like the mayor said, we need long-term planning to make sure that we have affordable housing for many other people, not just within the tourism industry. And this is a problem that really could derail our economic recovery in the tourism industry in the long term. We left a lot of opportunities on the table because of a lack of housing, a lack of transportation, a lack of infrastructure, and other destinations and other countries will overtake us in their share of the market if we don't act now.
Kevin, let me state the obvious. If people want to go tour Northern Ontario, particularly some fascinating places with great Indigenous history, they got to do a lot of driving. And we all know what the price of gas is these days, not to mention other goods. And I'm wondering if you could tell us what you think the high cost of gas and travel has done to your efforts to improve tourism in the province.
Yeah, well, the high cost of gas and other expenses that go along with travel and operating a business have definitely affected our operators in Northern Ontario and beyond. We've tried to embrace technology at Indigenous Tourism Ontario to help provide new revenue streams for our operators. And we do things like virtual reality experiences, augmented reality experiences, but definitely, like with the cost of gas for vehicles alone, you're going to see, and we are seeing it now, that although there's a pent-up demand, we're seeing a decline in the number of people traveling around. And a lot of the Indigenous communities are remote communities as well in Northern Ontario. So flying to these communities was challenging pre-pandemic, pre the era that we're in terms of inflation. So it's going to be even more and more challenging. And in our role, we're trying to support the operators and the communities to embrace technology as best they can. So connectivity is a big item, but we all want to help them share their story on their terms and help educate other travelers and other Canadians, both domestically and all those international travelers as well. So we're feeling those effects as well, Steve, just like everybody else is.
Betty DeZero, I don't know if this is a deal breaker, but a lot of people who don't drive electric vehicles drive to Niagara-on-the-Lake. And if you're driving from Toronto, I mean, that could be a tank of gas to get there and back, and that's $100, $120 these days. Have you heard people complaining about how expensive it is to get to your neck of the woods now?
Yes, we have. Not a lot. I mean, people are complaining generally about the price of gas going up and what that's doing to even, people working in the tourism industry having to service. So it's coming from both sides. What we're trying to do now is work with the region to find or improve alternatives, like the connection to the GO train, like we're looking at other alternatives in terms of buses rather than cars, some type of water crossing. So we're looking at different ways that we can do much more community transportation rather than two people in a car all the time.
Mm-hmm. Chris, can I get you on this? Because yes, COVID might be less of a factor today, but the price of gas and goods is more of a factor today. So how does it all work itself out?
Well, inflation was at a record high in March of 6.7%. It was even higher for food and other key supplies for many for our businesses. And so it's been a double whammy for the tourism industry. Not only is it potentially putting off potential tourists, particularly that rubber tire tourism market from the United States, comparing the price of gas from their own country or potentially filling up in Canada and doing a road trip, but also it takes a lot of fuel for our businesses and some of our remote areas to run their businesses. So it's a double whammy. And, and I've had a lot of frustrated calls from our members during the election period who wanted to hear more about how potential governments could help them during this cost of living crisis, because this is a very dangerous time for the tourism industry at the moment. Many people think we're out of the woods. Many people think that our businesses, it's plain sailing from now on. But things like the cost of living crisis are really going to damage their ability to kick on during this summer and potentially could put businesses that have survived the last 2 years at risk of closure.
Rachel, what do we do about this? I know governments are trying to take the price of gas, take the tax off the price of gas, but even still, it's more than $2 a liter. What's that going to do?
Well, I was going to say, I think it's only going to keep going up, especially when you start adding carbon taxes and things like that. But there are a lot of solutions and some really innovative, wonderful social enterprises in Ontario that people can take advantage of. For example, if you are going to go, you want to go for a walk or you want to go to a region, you can take the train. Not everywhere, of course. You can take the bus, but there's an organization called Park Bus, which brings people out of their cars onto the parks. It reduces carbon. It gives them an amazing opportunity to meet some like-minded people and put some money back into the local community. And those are the kinds of things that communities want. They need to see the value from tourists. So if somebody fills up in Toronto, puts all their food in their car, and they drive up to, say, for example, Lake Simcoe for an afternoon, and all that's left behind is garbage, the community doesn't really see any benefit from that. And so they're not going to want you there. Those are the kinds of things that the tourism industry has control over and the tourist has control over. We don't have control over the price of gas, but we do have control over what we bring into the local community. Making the effort to get to know local people, making sure that we eat in local restaurants, putting some money back into the economy, understanding that we're all feeling the pinch right now, but some people more than others. So there's some things we can do to be really positive, and we can get a break and enjoy ourselves and, enjoy the wonderful summer sunshine that's about to be on us. And we have beautiful lakes, beautiful trails, wonderful restaurants, great food, amazing Indigenous culture. Those are the things that we can celebrate and enjoy and ensure we put some money back into those pockets of the people who really need it.
But it does require us to be a little more creative in the way we approach these things, yes?
That's not a bad thing these days, I think.
That
I don't think everyone talks about recovery, but it's not COVID. The tourism industry didn't have a cold. The tourism industry was very, very, very busy in 2019. And I'm not so sure that going back to the way it was is necessarily always the best thing. We need to do things better, and we need to start doing them now. It's not something that has to happen 20 years in the future.
Right. Now, you did mention COVID, and let me follow up with Kevin on that. is, I mean, I said earlier, COVID, thankfully, is not as fatal today as it was a year or two ago, but it's still there. And I'm wondering if it's still, Kevin, in your world, a concern for operators.
It definitely is. So, Steve, as we work within the provincial and the federal guidelines around the global pandemic, we also have another layer of government within our communities that we have to be respectful of, because we've got highly vulnerable people within our communities, and there's still some restrictions in place that the rest of Ontarians and Canadians may not face. And with that, we're very concerned about it, because our businesses are highly vulnerable to begin with. Although we've been doing tourism, as we say, for over 500 years or even longer in some people's eyes, we're new to this tourism game as we know it today. To what Rachel referred to, we were super busy in 2019. We're still incredibly busy, and we need to be mindful of that. And we need to be respectful of those business operators who really struggled just to survive and put food on the table during the global pandemic. And now we don't want to overrun them and close them down for other reasons. But the global pandemic and we never know what tomorrow is going to hold. So we want to make sure we help and support as many operators as we possibly can. And the pandemic is still having its effects within our communities.
Let me pursue that with Chris. As you alluded to earlier, there are, thousands upon thousands of businesses that have gone into even further debt than they might otherwise have in order to stay afloat over the past 2 years. And I'm wondering if you can give us a sense about how those businesses that are still alive, that have accumulated all of that extra debt, how are they managing it? How are they going to come out of it?
Well, Steve, they're managing it by making very difficult decisions on their own pay, about how many people they're hiring, about possible, ending potential expansion plans. The size of the debt that we're seeing on our members is unprecedented. I was just speaking to our colleagues at Nature and Outdoor Tourism Ontario, who really focus on resource-based tourism in the north, and they're saying their average membership debt is $187,000. And so many people are making a decision right now. They're looking at some of the obstacles that still exist to travel. For instance, Americans still need to be double vaccinated to come over to Northern Ontario. That means 1 in 2 of their old clientele is still not eligible to come to their businesses. And so many of our Northern Ontario businesses are still at 1 in 4 of or 25% of the level of revenues that they were pre-COVID-19. So there are some still significant obstacles to travel that mean that our businesses aren't going to be recouping those revenues that many people would expect them to over the summer. So they're taking tough decisions, Steve. And one of the things we're working hard with the government at the moment on a regional and a national level is, let's try and forgive some of that debt that has been accumulated over the last 2.5 years. Some of that government debt at 4% could be forgiven at a higher rate or even written off. The best thing we could do to support our industry is to try and write off some of that debt and get rid of that millstone around their neck as they look to recover. And that's a set of conversations that's going on right now, and I think could be a big boost to the industry moving forward. So they can do things like Rachel has just suggested, invest in new technologies, invest in new ways of businesses, more sustainable and green functionality and technology. That money could be used to reimagine our industry within Ontario, not just simply rebuild it from pre-COVID.
Betty DeZero, I wonder if there's anything the municipality can do to alleviate the burden of that $187,000 average debt that these small businesses are carrying. I know you need property tax revenue to pay for services, but is there anything the municipality is considering in that regard?
We did a lot of work during the pandemic in terms of waiving fees and trying to work with our businesses to instead of panicking. What happened was they involved in online marketing. We started Shop Noddle. We've been, we allowed the patios to take place for restaurants. So we've been working with our businesses throughout the pandemic to figure out what the new normal and the new technology will look like. In terms of reducing taxes, we're looking at putting in a heritage tax rebate that may or may not fly at this point. As you said, we'll need to try to keep our taxes to pay for the things that we've been working on throughout COVID as well in the municipality. But we meet with our businesses frequently to find out what more we can do to assist them.
Well, let me follow up with Rachel on that, because we've had quite the laundry list of concerns that tourism operators would be dealing with right now. And I wonder what's at the top of the list based on your travels. What do you hear is the number one concern of operators nowadays?
Oh, I don't think there is just one concern. Cost, definitely, as everyone else has really mentioned. Staffing is also a really huge issue. Also, making sure that they can provide a competitive offering compared to everybody else. But we can't forget that 90% of our tourism industry is made up of small and medium-sized enterprises. So what makes the news are the big people, the big hotels, the big chains, but actually our industry is 90% small and medium-sized enterprises. So we really need, those are the kinds of considerations that comes up. And for those organizations, they can't pay to play, especially not in a climate like this. So probably the most important thing is we need to be as forgiving as we were during COVID to make sure that we all work together and rethink tourism and rethink what it's been historically to make it a better place for everyone, operators, environment, and tourists together.
Well, with just a few minutes to go here, I guess it would be a nice thing if we could leave this on somewhat more of an upbeat and positive note. And to that end, Kevin, maybe you could tell us, what are you looking forward to this summer?
Well, I'm looking forward to people traveling around. I know there's some pent-up demand, and people have been getting a little bit of cabin fever. And here in the community where my office is located on Dacomineconing First Nation, they just had their first powwow in 3 years now, and it was packed. People were out and about, and it was a great time. They're visiting, they're celebrating together, and I'm looking forward to that happening this summer, where everybody gets out and enjoys the nice weather here in Ontario, and spends a little bit of dollars around the regions, and everyone's kind to each other, nice to each other, and is just out enjoying and having a good time this summer.
Amen to that. Betty DeZero, are you going to get to a play at Shaw this year?
Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah, the Shaw's got some great plays this year. They're celebrating their 60th year, and we're really excited about being able to showcase the Shaw this year. Ben, we also have a lot of sort of organic kind of festivals, all our, cherry, peach and strawberry festivals, and people getting out. So it's really going to be a good summer for us, I think. And the numbers in terms of tourism are increasing every day.
Well, if you're a history nerd like me, you just love going to Fort George, and you love seeing the first ever Legislative Assembly building in the history of the province of Ontario, which only goes back, well, a century and a half or more, actually. So that's another good reason to go to Niagara-on-the-Lake. Chris, how about you? What are you looking forward to this summer?
Oh, Steve, after 2 years of having to have conversations like this with my members on very small screens, I'm just excited to be able to get in a car and travel around the province, go to Manitoulin Island, spend some time with Kevin and his fantastic Indigenous tourism operators, just getting out and enjoying what we have in Ontario. Listen, we're very fortunate in our province that we have an incredible tourism offer that not only people in this province want to take part in and visit, but across the world. And so I came to Ontario 3.5 years ago. I immigrated here from the UK because I fell in love with this province, and I just can't wait to get out, enjoy it, and spend some time with friends again instead of sharing screens like this.
Really? I could have sworn that was a Huntsville, Ontario accent you had there. Really? You're from away, are you? Okay, go figure. Rachel, you get the last word here. What are you looking forward to this summer?
Not wearing a mask, I have to say. I think sometimes we still wear them, and we need to be very sympathetic to everybody who has other issues that's still going on, and a lot of people are still highly at risk. But I'm really looking forward to seeing people enjoying our wonderful lakes and the water and the beaches. It's lovely.
Those are 4 perfect answers of things to look forward to this summer. Can I thank Rachel Dodds from, I don't know what you guys call it. Do you call it TorMetU or TMU, or what's the new acronym?
Toronto Met, TMU, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
All of them are great these days.
Gotcha. Chris Bloor from the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, Betty DeZero, the Lord Mayor of Niagara-on-the-Lake, Kevin Eshkokogan, President, CEO, Indigenous Tourism Ontario. Really good of all of you to join us here on TVO tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.